Hello, I think we're live. It is Wednesday, or no, it's Tuesday, excuse me. It's What's Your Superpower? We're going to get AMC on here in just a second. AMC. I invited her. She should be here soon. Thanks so much for joining both of us here today on Tuesday. There's so many things you could be doing, but you're here with What's Your Superpower, which is awesome. Oh, that's her.
How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Well, just a little bit. It's so hard to always judge it when I set it up.
I know, and it changes as soon as one of us joins too,
Yeah.
So
And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And it cuts off half my head. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
never
it's like,
mind.
no, I don't have half a head. I'm
Like,
seeing
it's
how I
fine.
can get all the way in here. Um, yeah, so what's your superpower? What's your superpower this week before launch of your first book?
I think functioning with very little sleep because my little dude's been sick. And
Mhm.
that's causing him to stay up at night, which means mommy and daddy don't get much sleep. So I'm like, not only I've released the one for next week, but my little dude's sick. And I'm like, it's fine. It's all fine.
Mhm.
I can function without sleep. It's fine.
So here is something to cheers to. I thought I had jury duty the rest of the week, and I just called because in my county, you have to call the night before, and I just found out that I don't, which I was like, cool, jury duty the week of the launch. That's fine. It's fine. Nothing will go wrong. But I never
Did you
got it.
You
Thanks
had
for
to
the
go.
slow process. Yeah.
That's too funny that you actually had a jury duty thing because I had a jury duty thing for next week. And
What?
I was, yeah, they said it, I got it about a month ago and I'm like, are you kidding me? The week of my release, you are sending me a jury duty. So I actually wrote a letter stating, I have a part-time self-publishing business. I've been planning this launch. I have things to do.
A
Can I
lot
please
of
be
things to do.
excused? And I actually got a letter yesterday that they were like, oh, your excuse has been granted. And I was like, thank you. Thank you.
That's
So I was
awesome.
like, I can't go to jury duty with my book be released.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
how weird that both of us, yeah, and
yeah,
how
that's
weird that both of us got summoned for jury duty the weeks of our launch. I had full faith. I was manifesting it, but I was also like, it's such a weird time with the pandemic and everything. I was like, I doubt I'll have it. And we were all excused. Now, which isn't to say you should try to get out of jury duty at all. We're not saying that, but definitely the week of a huge product launch is not the week to have jury duty. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack. I was just really excited.
no, I get it. 200% because I
Yeah.
have the same feeling. So what would you say is your superpower this week?
Um, Not going to jury duty is
Yeah, there
probably
you go.
top of there. Just like the force of my mind. I'm going to credit my manifesting that because all week I was like, "You're not going. You've got to launch. You're not going." So it worked. It totally worked. But yeah, this is definitely like I've started to feel the feelings, and you can totally relate now that you are
Yeah.
among an indie author about to have your first book launched. Just the feeling of overwhelm. My lists have lists, and I'm not sleeping well. I'm up at 4 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I should really do that. So remember when we thought about doing this show in July, and we were like, that'll be great to do it right before our
It was
launch.
fun.
We were being villains to ourselves. No, I'm just kidding.
That's how it always works. Actually, I know, like, SJ Pratt, we were talking about doing the one challenge that we're doing, the Try-Fi Writer Challenge. She's
Yeah.
like, are you sure you want to do that this month? And I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. It's fine. And I'm just like, maybe I should have listened to her a little bit more. But no, it's fine. It's fine.
And you're doing so many things too because you've got some giveaways going on for the Guardian's Daughter. You're going to be on Books and Brews this Thursday, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you're making it around IG Live.
I'm trying around town.
That's the indie way. That's how you get the word out. So bravo. I'm so impressed with you. I know your launch is going to be amazing.
Yours too, of course.
Yeah.
I'm looking
I'm
forward
definitely doing the long version I love what you did where you, like right now, y'all, if you go over to this AMC Writers website, you can get her first chapter of her book if you sign up for her newsletter. And I think that's such a clever thing. So I've done that too, where at my website, if you sign up for the newsletter on the 20th, you'll get a book. And I think that's just like a clever way to kind of give people a taste. You know what I mean?
Actually, with mine, you can get the prologue and the first 2 chapters. So you kind of, I give quite a bit to make sure, like, you think this might be the story for you, just in case you're on, you're like, I'm not sure, maybe not. So it can give you a taste of my writing style and of the characters. But yeah, I think it's a great way. I know some people are against it, but I'm like, why not give people a little bit of a taste just to help them either make up their mind? Because it could be a difference between them before sure wanting to get it, and to be honest, if they read it and decide it's not for them, I'd rather them decide that than spend money on it and possibly give me a bad review because it's not what you want. So I'm like, it's fine. I don't mind doing it. So I'm so excited for September 20th to get the first part of your book.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. So next week, y'all, she and I are doing some crazy stuff. Check out our profiles, but I want to get to the villains of the evening. Let's start with your number 3. I am so curious. Can you give me like a clue before just telling me? Give me a clue.
A lot of people are allergic to it.
Okay.
Catwoman.
I immediately just thought of Catwoman, just because people are allergic to cats.
I'm allergic to cats, but no, not Catwoman. Even though I did think of Catwoman.
I did too, for a minute.
But do you want me to go ahead and let you know?
Yeah.
It's actually Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy.
Oh, that's good. Some people are allergic to it. Oh, very nice.
I had a coworker at work have an extreme allergic reaction to it like a week or 2 ago and couldn't breathe. So I'm like, this stuff is, my mom, like my whole family is really allergic to it besides me. And I'm like, I swear I can walk through it and it's just fine.
That's how my mom is too. She's not allergic to it, which I didn't know that some people weren't super allergic to poison ivy.
Yeah.
What about that character, that villain, Poison Ivy, drew you to her?
Actually, you know what's funny? I realized subconsciously, I think I did a lot of design based off of Ember's mom, Emerald Blaze, off of her, because Emerald Blaze wears like a green tight skin outfit. She has long red hair. Then all of a sudden it dawned on me, I was like, did I accidentally make her Poison Ivy? I didn't
it's like in your mind. Yeah.
But I think I did, yeah. But no, she's one of those villains. She's obsessed with plants and environmentalism, and she uses her powers not in good ways, but to try to protect the environment and other things. I actually found out when I was looking up stuff today that how she got her powers was because she was helping her botany professor steal this like Egyptian artifact, and the professor then became like concerned that she was going to rat him out, so he poisoned him. I guess in this Egyptian artifact, it had these different herbs in it, and he tried to poison her with it, which ended up giving her crazy abilities. So I thought that was really cool, like had Egyptian ties. And it's kind of funny because that kind of ties in with some other big plot points of my book too.
Everything's a little bit of a remix. Yeah, that's fun.
How did this happen? But no, I love her character. Of course she's made like love potions, which you should never force anyone against their will or anything like that. But she's been sometimes this lover of Batman, and potions are not potions. But she's also done things with Superman. But with Superman, she always needs like kryptonite to help her out there. But I love her design. There's also this huge thing with her and Harley Quinn. In some universes, they're friends. Other times, they're lovers. Harley Quinn has her Joker obsession, of course. But that's like her one. Like, if she could have her best friend, that'd be the closest you would get is Harley Quinn with her. She has a hard time like bonding with humans and everything, but she has this also. I think there was this one point where Gotham was getting destroyed by an earthquake, and she, I think it's Robinson Park, that she made into like this huge paradise, and there was 16 kids, I think it's 16, who were orphaned because of the earthquake, and she had such like a traumatic childhood. She made into this huge paradise for them and wanted to help them, not through that, because she had such a traumatic childhood. So, like so many, she has these like kind of maternal instincts, but of course she's a villain, but I know she's very complicated, and I love her for that.
That's what makes a great villain. And that was kind of what I came to the conclusion this week when I was kind of promoting this show. And I was like, why is it I feel almost more of an attachment to my villain picks than even my hero picks? And I think it's because a really well-crafted villain, even like Harley Quinn, who does things and maybe doesn't do it, it doesn't have great effects on people. She does it because she's cares for the environment, which isn't in and of itself isn't a bad thing. But then if you have someone that has villainous tendencies, then that is the way they can find ways to protect the environment at the cost of human life. You know, Ultron does that. You know, he thinks he's making peace for all mankind, but that's by removing mankind because we're our own worst enemy, essentially.
Yeah, it's like with Thanos too. You know, he was all like, "I'm doing this to save the universe," and it's like, "But you can't all these people, like, it's okay."
Yeah, and I think too, I kind of fall. It's funny because two of my picks today, spoiler alert, are Marvels, but Marvel gets a bad rap for having kind of flat villains, and even though I have my Infinity Gauntlet on tonight, I think Thanos is one of those. I think I'm just like, I'm purple and I have balls for a chin and I really like genocide. Like that's Thanos. Like that's it. Like, why are you into genocide? Were you like emotionally abused? Did you watch a lot of World War II documentaries? Like what's going on? They never really like that's just what Celestials are into. And he's on a Celestial. He's anyway, he's a bad guy.
I don't know you're getting at. Yeah, that's. I think they just were like, you know what, I can do this, so I'm going to do this. Like, sometimes it's just how it feels. Like, I have the power to do this, so why not, I guess. And it's like, no.
Yeah. I want more motivation from, DM says, I like comic book Thanos, not baby eyes Brolin Thanos. Yes, yes. And there's a Thanos chapter in the comics as well, so we're really missing that. I will say, I feel like, I don't know if any of y'all have watched What If, but I think there's the second episode there, you know, spoilers, Thanos is in it. But after watching it, I kind of was like, that actually makes him a little more well-rounded by just seeing him in this alternate universe. Anyway, sorry to get away from Poison Ivy. So who's your number two?
Okay, my number two, I love this guy so much. It's actually Norman Osborn, and so AKA Green Goblin. He's the most Halloween-themed villain ever, so I have to love him automatically. And of course, what made me fall in love with him was William Dafoe, you know, when he played him in the original, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I mean, he just captured that personality so well to me. I was so sad when he died. I was like, no, I don't want him to die. And, you know, we got like, ghost storming kind of deal. And of course, Harry picked up the reign later on kind of deal. But like, no, Norman was so good, and I'm just like, you're so great at this. That's one thing I'm so excited about the new Spider-Man when we hear like the Green Goblin laugh. I'm like, that has to be Defoe. Like it has to be. Like it has to be. It has to be. But you know, he has, you know, pumpkin bombs. He has, you know, like bat razors. Like he's just, of course, he's a green Goblin guy. You know, I love him. You know, he also had a very, you know, he's a self-made man. You know, that kind of added to his craziness because he had an abusive alcoholic father. One reason why he could never really be a great father, that Harry, and you know, he just wanted more power and all of this. And you know, when he took like the Goblin serum, you know, which is almost like I thought about like, oh my gosh, it's just basically like a version of the super soldier serum, like Marvel, pretty much. But
they have a lot of similarities in their characters and plot points.
Yeah, because, you know, the serum is pretty much supposed to heighten what's in you. You know, just like, you know, like Captain America heightened all the good qualities. But if someone has a lot of bad tendencies, it just heightens that. Whereas in Norman, that's what happened. It heightened all those corruptions in him. And, you know, boom, Green Goblin dude was born. And, you know, I've always loved him so much. And, like, I'm disappointed I've never been able to get the Funko Pop for him yet. Because he's my favorite villain. Like, he's not my number one, but I just always have loved him. Like, he's just great.
Yeah. And I love that because I'm not as familiar with Spider-Man. Again, like, I kind of stopped with the Tobey Maguire movies. And never really watched them again. So I'm excited to be reintroduced. And that new preview for the Spider-Man has me hyped to get some of those Sinister Six villains whom, you know, I'm not as familiar with. I was definitely, when I got into Marvel as a child, I really went X-Men. You know, I was all about the X-Men, you know. So everyone's got their gateway. Some people use Spider-Man, some
Oh,
people use X-Men. There's no wrong
well,
way.
another thing about him, in the like Tobey Maguire movies, he goes after Mary Jane and throws her off the
Mhm.
bridge, whole that deal. But really, he was responsible for Gwen Stacy dying. Gwen Stacy
Mhm.
was Spider-Man's OG love, not Mary Jane. Mary Jane came later. That was something I had to learn later on because
Mhm.
Spider-Man, I watched some of the animated stuff when I was younger, but my biggest hook was when I saw the Tobey Maguire movie. But he killed Gwen Stacy I guess like almost unintentionally, but also intentionally because it was pretty much when Spider-Man was trying to save her. Of course, like it broke her neck and all that jazz because of
Yeah,
it. But it's like
I have seen that scene.
so evil, and he's done so many horrible things, and sometimes it's like I shouldn't enjoy this character as much as I do, but I do.
There's nothing wrong with that. I have a villain on my list that is very similar in that way. So
Yeah.
I understand. Oh,
So I know we want to save our number ones for
you were saying
last.
the other ones.
Yes. So it's your turn to tell me your number three.
So my number three actually has a dubious honor of being also mentioned in our superheroes episode last week.
Ooh.
I'm going to read a quote from her. I used to think of myself one way, but after this, I'm something else. I'm still me, I think, but that's not what everyone else sees. Do you have any idea?
Mm-mm. I actually
It's
saw that earlier.
Scarlet,
And I was
it's Scarlet
like,
Witch.
oh my gosh, I shouldn't do that. Oh my gosh, my
Mhm.
Funko Pop came in today of her. I should have brought her up. Oh, but yes, because like you
That's
just said last
awesome.
week, she both can be a villain or
She
a good guy.
she
Yeah.
really kind of goes in between, and in the comics, her and Quicksilver are children of Magneto. That is not canon in MCU right now.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
Stranger things have happened because now
that's
they
true.
own the Fox
We
the
got
Fox property, so the X-Men are in.
Mhm.
But I think that she's so cool. One thing, she's got the twin trope. She has a twin, Pietro, and
Yeah.
spoiler alert, in the MCU, he doesn't like it. So she's got that in common with Fred Weasley from Harry Potter. So they can form a twin club of bereft twins. I think it's so cool that she has chaos magic and she's a Nexus being and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that's super cool too is that she was experimented on with the scepter, which is the Mind Stone, which is what is in Vision. So she might be coming up next week with our couples episode too, which I think that is so interesting with their relationship. Um,
Yeah.
but she started as an enemy in, I believe, Age of Ultron. Becomes a friend of the Avengers, becomes an Avenger essentially. But then in Civil War, she sides with Cap. And then
Mhm.
she's put on the raft, so she's imprisoned. And then Cap escapes with, this is my question. So Cap comes and gets her from the raft, but I assume that Ant-Man and Hawkeye just stay so they can get their plea deal because they had a plea deal. I'm like, I
Yeah.
guess, like, that would be so hard if Cap came to break you out of jail and be like, no, I gotta get a plea deal for my family, And Scarlet Witch
Yeah.
is like, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
leaving.
I'm out.
Because I was thinking that when I'm trying to stuff, I was like, wait, they were all there together, so they had to be like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna stay on this horrible barge.
Yeah.
Um,
Like we're just gonna stay. It's a great time. A great time.
yeah, it's so great.
Yeah.
But her villain story really kind of escalates when she has to kill her true love several times. And when she tracks down Vision's body in WandaVision at Sword headquarters, shenanigans ensue. And I think, too, so her path to hero and villain is kind of like this, because for me, like, I totally agree with you. Like, when you were talking last week about how you're like, I want to just eat ice cream with her and tell her it's okay. And, like, I so felt that. But I was also like, you're controlling all these people. That is so wrong. It's very wrong.
Well, it's so wrong, and then what's even crazier, and that's one reason, like, I love, WandaVision so much, is, like, she didn't really first realize what she was
Not at first.
doing.
Not at
Yeah, at
first.
first she did not realize what she was doing at first, and how just the control that was going on, that's how much that mental break she was having, and then eventually, she caught on to it, and then she was like, no, but I'm doing this for your good, you're happier this way, and it's like, no, they're really not,
They're
but,
not.
eventually WandaVision, those walls broke down. But yeah, it's kind of like, I know she was on my top, my top hero, but it's like, okay, there is that line, like, was she more villain or hero during that time? Like, yeah, she probably was, but I just focused on all like, no, it's okay. She had mental problems. It's fine.
She had a lot of problems, and I think too, for anyone that watches other superhero stuff besides DC and Marvel, like The Boys, I feel like that's the closest Marvel got to The Boys, and that's not close at all. If you've seen The Boys, it's very, very gory and violent. It is basically the premise of if superheroes were real, they would probably be commodified, kind of like they are now. So a corporation owns them, and they have very loose morals, very nebulous morals, and they're super people. So super people with nebulous morals equals gore and other stuff. And it's a show too where even the good superheroes are shades of gray, and at least that's my interpretation of The Boys. They have a new season coming out, but it's very gory, very sexual, very. I think Robert Kirkman, who did The Walking Dead, made The Boys. I could be wrong.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh no, I'm confusing that with Invincible. I'm so sorry. I'm walking that back. Robert Kirkman did Invincible, which is another really gory superhero. Omni Man is on my short list of guys that didn't make it just because he's really awful. But going back to Scarlet Witch, I think her arc too in WandaVision, and like at the end where she kind of just flew off, and like there was no like, if I were one of the people in Westview, I'd be like, I need a little closure here. Like I need an apology, maybe offer me dinner. Like you took over my life. It was for just 2 weeks. Yeah, it was only for 2 weeks, but also it was for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Talk about this. I'm like, yeah, she probably definitely was just the villain, and she was the villain pretty much in WandaVision, but then you find out all this complicated layer with like, Agatha and everything that's going on too, that she's just, contributing to this whole thing. Like, it's just, you could pick it apart all day, and it's crazy.
Totally.
It's just so crazy. And then it's just that she was that powerful to do it. And then, like I said, at first, not to know even that she was doing it. Yeah. But like, once she did realize that, she was scared of losing everything, so that's why she just kind of kept it up, played into all those just the complicated puzzle that show was, with all the emotions going on.
Very complicated. And I think too, the second to last episode where Agatha and Scarlet Witch kind of go back, and we just see all of her previous trauma. Again, this is what complex character building can get you. It's this character that we've been watching her basically abuse the citizens of Westview, but then you see her entire life and you're like, oh honey, and you empathize and you understand, even though you're like, that's not good what you did, but I understand. And I think that's the magic of villains, and we can put that in our real life, where you think that person that cut you off in traffic, you asshole, but you don't know what their morning was like, So having grace, Anywho, are you ready for my number 2?
Do it.
Number 2, I'm keeping it in the family, is Magneto. From the X-Men. I love his conflicted relationship with Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
It's great.
I was going to say, I think DM actually commented on my post for the giveaway if Magneto was a guest of hers for mine, and he has a good one. No, and like you said, the complicated relationship with Professor X and everything, it just adds a whole other complicated layer to everything,
Totally. Yeah. Yep. And also because his character, I believe his full name is Eric Lenzer, and he originally was born in Germany. During World War II, he was Jewish. He was put in a concentration camp. So he had a very tragic, traumatic origin. And when the Nazis realized he had mutant powers, they experimented on him. And actually, he saw his mother die in the comics. So this is all the backstory that makes Magneto so passionate and so like, this is the right thing to do for mutant kind. Because basically, what he witnessed in his formative years is why he's like, I never want mutants to have to submit to what I saw happen there. You know what I mean? Which is why he's like, mutant rights, mutant rights, mutant rights. We will not compromise. And Charles Xavier's like, we can live together. And he's like, no, They want to, he's like, they want to, like the Mutant Registration Act, like in and of itself sounds like a very, like much of a commentary almost, on the things that were going on at that time. So he's a very complicated character. They have some of his backstory from real life. So we as comic book readers, we are familiar with that terrible time in history. And so we can get a feel for this character and why he might be driven to do the things he does. And I think, too, he's a great illustration of a character that their most dangerous part of them isn't necessarily his electromagnetism and ability to bend metal, but it's the fact that he's unwavering in his commitment to his ideals and principles that, mutants are above humans, and if someone is like, I'm right all day, then there's no room for debate.
Yeah, they're that no matter what you do, you're not gonna change it. Yeah.
And that's Charles and Magneto's relationship, essentially, is that they could never, in Days of Future Past, they come back and fight together. So they do have a cyclical relationship. I feel like Magneto and Charles come back and forth and kind of ping pong around. But they definitely are the foil to each other a lot, especially with, they have a common enemy, so it's always like, you guys should work together, you have a common enemy, but they have such different ideas about what to do with the common enemy,
Yeah.
So Magneto.
They're all complicated beasts, but it's not funny by any means, but so many of these villains, it's also so rooted back into they've had these traumatic childhoods.
Absolutely.
And it just shows about how, if children go through these traumatic events and then they don't get the proper care and attention to help them get through it, are you just setting up people to be bad people if they don't get the proper help and everything? Because mental health is huge. Yeah, and they're mentally so much going on there, and you almost can't blame them for how they are. And it's almost, sometimes it's like, does the world create? The world pretty much creates their own enemies and villains when things like that happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think good villains make us ask those big questions that have nothing to do with the fictional story we're reading. But those big questions are important. And that's why we engage with stories, is to kind of see our lives in different perspectives. So, moving on, I would like to know your number one. And is this the one that, have you revealed the one that is part of your giveaway? Because you're announcing a villain tonight that someone might win a giveaway if they've guessed the right one, right?
So no one guessed any of my top three, but someone did guess one of my honorable mentions that I'm going to bring up. So that's the one I'm going to have who wins, since it's in one of my honorable mentions. But no one actually guessed any of my top three ones, which is cool. It happens. But I feel like a lot of people should know this, but of course I haven't talked about a lot. But my all-time favorite one is Lex Luthor, specifically from Smallville.
I knew it. I was really researching this afternoon. I said, she's going to choose Lex Luthor, and it's going to be Lex Luthor from Star Wars. We've talked about the Rosenbaum effect. We've talked about it. Oh my God, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Hands down. Don't get me wrong, I've seen Lex Luthor in other things, but Michael Rosenbaum's Lex Luthor in Smallville, oh my gosh, just, and the relationship they created between him and Clark at first, you see them friends, and then then he gets so hurt because Clark's hiding something from him, but Clark knows he can't trust him, and then Lionel Luthor is there, and I don't think Lionel Luthor is really. I don't really think he's ever been in the comics or anything like that, if I remember correctly. I feel like he was mainly a Smallville thing. But, that whole dynamic with his father showing, why he's so warped, again, childhood trauma and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, he's so great. And so, and you just feel for him, because it's you don't want him to turn bad, because, he fights against it so hard sometimes, where he wants to be good. And he wants to do all these things, but he just continuously goes down the wrong path. There was even the whole bit, his random, when he married Lana there in the show. He so badly wanted to do good by her, but then no, he did the whole complicated, horrible path he took down with her. About he was then so scared to lose her, and that's something that drove him all the time. He's scared to lose people around him, so he would use these manipulation tactics and everything to try to keep people.
Yeah, the fear would twist him into a kind of a bad person.
Yeah, and I mean, he just, was just so mentally gone, and it's so heartbreaking almost because
Hmm.
when you see him when he first is shown in the show, because he is like legit like this just this good guy, and Clark saved his life, but then because Clark saved his life and all these things happened like around the vehicle, how damaged it was and stuff like that, he always had those questions like Clark's not telling me the truth, which always
Hmm.
fueled this jealousy and this I don't
Deception,
want
fear of
to, like, but
deception.
yeah, and then he hated Clark because the whole Lana bit because then he always wanted Lana, and that added a whole other complicated
Hmm.
matter to everything. And I don't know, it was such a great performance with him. I mean,
Hmm.
hands down the best Lex Luthor
I agree.
ever.
To
And
this day.
I
To
love,
this day.
yeah, yes, 100%. And just the
Hmm.
betrayal of that Lex Luthor is
Hmm.
just my favorite all-time villain storyline arc and everything. Because of course, what he showed up, I think, as Superman Returns, and what was his name who played him? I think it was Kevin something, maybe.
Hmm.
Like I think it was Kevin something. But the whole time I was just like, no, you need to leave. Like this, you're not good. Like.
Hmm.
But yeah. So Lex Luthor from Smallville is hands down my number one, hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. When I was doing research today, I was like, I bet Lex Luthor's in her top three because we've had the Rosenbaum discussion, and I think, do you have something signed by him that you went to a con?
Let me see if I can get it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's
Also
right.
have one
Yeah.
signed by Tom Welling, the
Hmm.
Clark Kent one. But yeah, and he was a really cool dude to meet and everything. But
Yeah.
in Lionel Luthor, it was kind of funny. John Glover, who plays Lionel Luthor, was next to him, and John Glover came up and the whole time was just playing with my son, and I was like, oh my god, like Lionel
That's
Luthor is
so
just
cool.
playing with my son, and it was just like with Tom Welling, he gave my son a golden sharpie because I think he just had a baby, so his and Richard was like, I
Hmm.
think around 2 years old at that point when we went to his one convention. And so he
Cool.
was telling me about his kid, and he gave Richard the golden sharpie, and they were playing. And
Oh.
like, oh my gosh, kids are like babies are tickets to get famous people to talk to you guys. Like,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
yeah, I love Smallville so much. I could do a
Yeah.
whole segment on Smallville.
Hmm. Hmm. It's a good show. I definitely binged it in college. Who are your honorable mentions? I'm so curious. Are you
Oh, you
ready to
want to do
reveal those?
we can? Do you want me to do those, or do you want to do your number one, and then we can do an honorable mention?
Either way, whatever you're
Because I'm
feeling.
so curious to know who your number one is.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm going to read a quote. I got really into the quotes. This quote is a different quote, but it's the same character that was also featured in my post today, and hopefully this will give some of you watching a little clue. Dracula will bring a pure world into being. I believe that. I believe him. I want, of all things, a pure world, a clean world where there's only loyalty and only love. That is Isaac from Castlevania. I don't know if anyone's watched that Netflix show. It's also, I believe, a video game from the 90s, early
Yeah,
2000s.
yeah, I have heard of Castlevania. I actually think my husband might have a Funko Pop or two from
Mm-hmm.
that line. We have
Mm-hmm.
Funko Pop for everything. What can I say?
Funko Pops are fun. I haven't gotten into those, but I'm living vicariously through
So
yours. They're so
yeah,
cute. I
we'll
love
get
them.
into them.
Yeah. You're like, don't do it. Don't do
Don't do
it.
it. We're a lot better. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Once you pop,
Um, yeah, right. Um, what I will say about Castlevania, it's an amazing show. It's one of those shows where I frequently felt conflicted about who was really on the good side. I mean, there's two characters that are clearly like fighting for good, but they're very conflicted too, and they're doing kind of crazy things. But Isaac is really great. He is a character that has a complete arc, and he's driven by revenge against someone who betrayed him, and by the end, has become this whole person because he's realized that really his villainous behavior. He's a forge master, so his superpower is necromancy, and he can basically take a corpse and turn it into like a devil demon, and then they only listen to him. So he created an army basically after he was employed by Dracula, and then Dracula.
I need to watch this stuff like right
It's
now.
good. It's so good. It is gory.
It doesn't sound like it's child
It is
appropriate.
not child appropriate. It is not safe for work. There's even a little cartoon sex, but there's really a lot of gore, which I enjoyed. Season 3 is my favorite. And definitely the Dracula in Castlevania really inspired Vlad, who is upcoming in Shadowglass. So many great characters. Even Dracula, like as horrible as he is, because he's a pretty bad guy in Castlevania, I still have sympathy for him and his position. But Isaac of them all is probably does some pretty nasty, horrible things. But his whole journey within the story over the 3 seasons is amazing, and I just think he's a great character study and a villain that really kind of realizes I don't want to be a villain. I don't want to be a tool of destruction. But like that quote about a clean and loyal world, like that's what he wants, loyalty, and like, which isn't a bad thing. Wanting a world of loyalty and love, that's not a bad thing, and yet he does some pretty nasty, horrible things to get that. And get his vision of the world. So again, just like Ultron, it's like, oh, I want a peaceful world, so I will get rid of all of the humans. And Isaac is our classic. Yeah. He doesn't
like,
want
I kill everybody.
Yeah, it's like he's one of those misanthropes that he doesn't like humans. He had traumatic childhood. He was abused. Magicians and wizards abused him and tried to sell his body parts, like crazy stuff. It's a very dark show. It's amazing.
Man. Always the childhood.
It starts in the childhood. So all of these villains, they are traumatized. They didn't just wake up and were like, evil's just my jam. They were driven, their choices were influenced by abuse, trauma, all those things. So, and I think that's what really makes a great villain, because again, you don't just wake up deciding that we want to do stuff like that. I would hope unless you're what?
He's not a villain. Well, not a Marvel DC villain. He's like a real life villain. H.H. Holmes, like he legit, like he was born with the devil in him, and he had to do all these murders in his murder castle. And I'm like, okay, that's a pure psychopath. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Fictional villains we're talking about. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They're not like born that way. I'm like, there was one guy who said he was.
There's a few. These are all generalizations, obviously, but there are definitely a few bad apples.
Oh yeah. I've been listening to a lot of lore podcasts, and it's a lot of murder and stuff, and I just listened to the H.H. Holmes one, even though I've read like the book and everything. So that was kind of fresh in my mind, where I was like, okay, this guy's effed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, messed up. Who are your messed up honorable mentions that might give someone a free copy?
My first one I actually put down was Agnes, so Agatha Harkness.
Mm-hmm.
I had to put her down. I also just love the fact that she's just this powerful witch. She was part of the witch trials and everything, and I mean, I just love that whole thing, because I mean, like this summer we went to Salem and Boston and all that. Yeah. So I had to put her down, especially after watching her in WandaVision. And I also love what's her name, Catherine Hahn. Anytime she plays anybody, it's always great. So and also one reason too, I always really love villains, is I feel like they always get the better costume designs. Like not always, I guess, but most of the time I found myself like being like, man, that costume design is gorgeous. And Scarlet Witch was gorgeous. But the Agatha, her whole ensemble colors,
like long fingers and stuff.
Yeah, it's very ethereal, and I just loved it. So she's honorable mention. My next one is Dark Phoenix.
Almost had her. Almost.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she has that whole Phoenix Force that just gets corrupted, and she's just crazy powerful and just wrecks stuff. I mean, she's just insane, and I love it. So I had to put her down. And her next one's actually Doctor Doom, which it's kind of funny because I don't know too much about him, but he's always one I've always remembered. And I was learning pretty much his mother, I guess, sacrificed her soul to the devil in exchange for him to be some kind of leader or something eventually. And I'm just like, now that's mother devotion right there. I'm telling you. But I mean, he's crazy and corrupt, of course. He just kills people to kill people, and I mean, his name is cool. Victor Von Doom. I'm just
That's
like,
a great name. That's a
I'm just
great
like,
villain name.
and then my last honorable mention, and this is actually the one where someone's going to win the copy, and it's Loki, and it was Brittany Putzer who guessed that one. And of course, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I fell in love with Loki throughout the movies, and my husband played God of War. Yes.
Got my Loki shirt on.
And there's so much Norse mythology around Loki and everything. We can, spend a whole segment on that. But like,
we could do a whole segment on Loki. Really
I know, it's insane. And I mean, I watched, of course, the Loki series recently, and I mean, when I saw Alligator Loki, I'm one of those people. It's just like I
My
need
favorite.
that. I just like that. It's so. And then because alligator Loki bites off the hand of another Loki. I mean, it was just. And then I mean, it's just so funny because it's just such a perfect example of narcissistic ways because Loki falls in love with himself. Spoiler alerts if no one's seen it yet. My bad, but it's like it's just he's hilarious. He's also one of those awesome people. He has moments where he'll help, but then of course he's more of a villain. But there's a whole complicated relationship with him and Thor. Throughout the movies and everything.
His path from villainy to heroism is very much like this because I feel like he's a character that, depending, could be a hero. There definitely had heroic moments in the Loki series, and Loki also was in my honorable mentions. So I will now talk about Loki with you.
Very
I have my T-shirt on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have got Funko Pop. I did not prepare well today with my Funko Pop.
We can reconvene anytime and talk about your Funko Pops. I would be delighted. Okay. But Loki is such an interesting character because his story is very cyclical, and if you look back at mythology, he is a very cyclical character, and his relationship with Thor and how things change, even in the MCU, they've kind of kept with that cyclical theme. So, Loki started the Loki series a villain, and then by the end, you're rooting for him. Like, TVA looks like more of the villain.
Yeah. So when they came together in Ragnarok, because of Hela, which I almost put Hela down as my honorable mention too, but then I decided I would have a list of like 10 if I kept going. So I was like, I'm gonna cut that short. But I love Hela too. She's just the goddess of death pretty much, and locked the band away because she was going too out of control and all that jazz. But they come together. Yeah, and I mean, they come together and, you see them trying to overcome all this. And then, when he, in, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. And the second Infinity War kind of deal, when he pretty much, helps them stop, well, I shouldn't say stop them, but, sacrifice himself before, to help Thor and all that jazz. It's just a whole other complicated layer on everything. And, like you said, but like in Norse mythology, I mean, it's just crazy the stuff this man, woman, alligator, whatever he is, horse,
Yeah.
Like all the stuff he does. He's just, you gotta love him. Like, you just gotta love him. And, Tom, he made, like, he's so, that's one thing about the Marvel, like, their casting they've done for all.
They did great.
Oh my gosh. Like, they are just been so spot on. I mean, that's, Marvel just succeeds in that. And, like we talked last week about how DC does so well with their animated, but it's, they've hit some marks here and there, but there's just so many times they're just struggling so much. But Marvel, amazing what they've done.
Yeah. And just really quick on that Loki note, if any of you are looking for a book with more Loki, I can't recommend enough The Queen's Heart, I believe, by Jen Gornichek. I'm going to link it in the bottom here because I'm probably saying everything wrong. Oh no, it's A Witch's Heart. Sorry. It's A Witch's Heart by Jen Gornichek. And it's a Norse paganism story about Loki and this witch, Agrabota. And she did a lot of like really cool research behind it to kind of make them based pretty much on actual Norse myths, which Loki does some crazy things. He's a woman for a while. He's a horse for a while. He has the wolf that's Hela's wolf actually is in Norse mythology his son,
Yeah,
Fenrir.
it's uh-huh.
Yeah, and then the snake is also
When I
his
saw
son.
that, I was like, oh my gosh, mind blown. Like
Yeah,
that's a,
yeah.
oh
Norse mythology is amazing, and I think has influenced a lot of Marvel comics. Obviously, Thor and Loki are in it, but
mhm.
it's again everything's a remix. We take these old tropes and stereotypes and concepts of stories that we love and we're familiar with, and just put it in a new way. And it makes for great cinema, certainly. My
Well, it's
other
just
two,
like mythology. Thor, like how he actually looks in Norse mythology is like he's a really big guy and he has like
hmm
red hair. And I
hmm
find it funny because I was like, Thor was getting pretty fat there towards the end, and I was like, oh, he started looking more like Norse, like his actual Norse mythology counterpart then.
yeah,
Like, but
big
that's like
guy.
I wondered if that was like a slight nod towards that almost with
hmm
that weight gain because that's how he is. Because I know recently I
hmm
think they announced like a new God of War video game,
hmm
and Thor is in it. And that's how he looks because they're basing everything off the Norse mythology, and that's how he looks. And a lot of people are raging like that's not Thor, and it's like no, there's different versions of
Yeah.
like you're used to the Marvel version of Thor, which
hmm
is is it Chris
Chris
Hemsworth?
Hemsworth. hmm
Hemsworth.
hmm
You know his sexy bod and blonde hair, and it's like that's not how he is in Norse mythology. That's just not
He's
how.
a big guy. Yeah.
Yep.
hmm
So who
Yeah.
else on your honorable
Oh,
mention?
one was Harley Quinn. So Harley Quinn to your Poison Ivy. I love Harley
Yep.
Quinn because she actually wasn't a character originally in the Batman Joker comics. She came about in the 90s from the Batman animated series, and she became a fan favorite. And so she's morphed into this kind of big presence within the DC universe, but she's not an original. She definitely came from the series, which
Ah,
I love. And also, I love a good, well-written, complicated female villain,
yeah.
that's not just a femme fatale or, in a bodysuit. No offense to anyone that loves those. Those are great too. But like Harley Quinn's got this, like, I'm going to punch you in the face and laugh about it. Like, devil may care. I just think that's fun. And like the recent iterations we've seen, I really enjoyed. I think her name's Margot Robbie is who
Yeah, that
portrayed
sounds
her.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, she
she's been
portrayed
really fun to
great.
watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause we watched the newest Suicide Squad when
hmm
my son was over at my mom's house, and I was like, thank goodness he wasn't home because this definitely was not child
Not child
friendly.
appropriate.
Oh, at all. I actually had to cover my eyes a couple times, like, nope, I don't need to see that.
hmm
Please don't.
hmm
But I just love like she was so spot on in that
hmm
movie. I do have to say, like sometimes I wish the DC movies gave a little more love to a couple of the other like women villains,
I
but
agree.
like they always come to focus on Harley, which she's great. But sometimes I'm like, I like to have a new Catwoman.
hmm
I don't like the Haley Berry one. We have a new Catwoman, please.
hmm
But
Yeah,
no, Harley Quinn is great.
she's fun. And then my last one is Omni Man from Invincible, which is on it's on Amazon. It's a cartoon or it's an animated. Um,
Mhm.
but Omni Man, it's basically the same premise. It's like a Justice League. He's part of a big conglomerate of superheroes, but he's actually an alien, and no one really knows his backstory. And then it kind of starts out with him betraying all of the equivalent thereof of his Justice League friends. But he doesn't just betray him. He like straight up kills him, and it's violent, and it's like all about how he's like, no, I'm part of a crazy race of beings, and you humans are like just fleas to me,
You're,
and like he's been living and like Omni-Man's been living on Earth for like 25 years and has a wife and stuff and had a kid, and like his kid started to get superpowers, so he's like, great, you're genetically superior, but your mom, she was just a pet I had. That's literally like a line from the series. It's
holy
crazy, but it's like this superhero that like he's like this, and he's got the really clean mustache, and I'm a superhero, and then he's like murderous, and it is gory. It's so much fun, and yes, Invincible, Omni Man. It's on Amazon Prime. Not safe for work. Don't watch it with your kids.
See, that's so many shows I want to watch, but my son's usually always home no matter
Mhm.
what, or we can only watch stuff late at night, and I usually pass out. So it's like there's so many things I need to watch, and so many
Right,
things are like
totally.
gory and intense. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
one day I'll wait
Yeah.
till he's a teenager, then we can sit down and watch all this again for family movie night. It's
Yeah.
fine.
You guys can watch it together. Here you go.
We can
Um,
watch Ghost Adventures together. He actually will ask, like, "Mommy, can we watch Ghost Adventures?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Yeah, you can watch
okay.
that." Like, you can watch the gore right now. That's too much gore. That's too much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say too. Like, I feel like a '90s rated R or an '80s rated R movie is so different than a rated R movie now. You know what I mean? It's a totally different movie. When I was trying to navigate movies for my stepsons, when they had to have movies navigated for them, they're almost 18, both 18 now. So, but before that, it was like, no, you can't watch Batman: The Dark Knight. There's stabbing.
You know, I want to say we do Friday movie nights, and we actually have been doing the Marvel timeline
Oh,
rewatch.
fun.
And
That's
my
fun.
watch those with us, and I'm not gonna lie, there's sometimes where I'm like, "Is this okay?"
Do we
I
need
think
to
it's
close your
okay.
eyes?
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think I don't. I'm not sure, but we're gonna.
Mhm.
He seems okay. We're just gonna keep going with it because sometimes there are some intense scenes. I think technically most of them are like PG-13
I
maybe.
think
So
they are. Yeah, I don't think they're any rated R except for Deadpool one day, maybe.
but yeah, sometimes even that though, with some of the scenes that happen, it's like, oh, that was really violent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Totally.
don't fine.
Well, I think that covers it. We have done our top three and our honorable mentions. So I think we will meet up again next week for Super Couples, which I am so excited to talk to you about Super Couples.
Yeah.
Do you have your list going already?
I actually need to talk to you sometime in Messenger about one of them, what I want
Okay.
to do. I have an
Okay.
idea. I have an idea for sure about one, and I'm thinking about the second one, but I swear, actually today, it took me forever to set my number three today because I kept going back and forth
Me
between
too.
Poison
I had
Ivy and Agatha for a
yeah.
little bit. I was like, I just don't know. Then,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, also when it dawned on me, like how much similarities like, especially
Mm-hmm.
one of my big characters in my book has to Poison Ivy. I'm almost like, I didn't realize I did this.
She
Oh,
really
I did.
influenced you.
Well, it's funny because she's not like the character that's so like closely looks like her is not a villain by any means. But I'm just like, I somehow did this. Am I trying to
Yeah.
tell myself?
Yeah. I think too, like for instance, when I watched Loki, and I hadn't really read any comics with Kang the Conqueror or anything, but when I started like researching Kang the Conqueror, I'm like, oh, that's really a lot like Kronos in my Shadow Glass novel. And I've not read any comics with Kang the Conqueror, you know? It's just like
Yeah.
some fantasy concepts, this we reuse them, but hopefully as indie authors, we find a fresh and interesting way to reuse them, which I hope is the case in Shadow Glass, and I know is the case in The Guardian's Daughter. So, um, which is coming out next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, when we're going to be here talking about super couples, it will also be your release day. I'll be thinking it this weekend and thinking calming thoughts for both of us, but really we'll both be crazy.
Yeah. I know. I don't know. I know that you've already done a first release, but for me, like a lot of people keep asking me like, "Oh my gosh, are you excited? Are you feeling?" I'm just like, I think I'm excited. I feel like almost numb. So like there's just this crazy whirlwind of emotions. So I've been working on this for over 2.5 years now to get it, right and working it out. And I'm just like, I'm like, it's insane. Like I can't believe it's almost here,
Yeah, it's a complicated question.
Yeah.
When people ask you that.
I don't know. I'm also nervous. I don't know. Sad also in a way too.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the first one is done and it's and it's gonna be out and that's it for that one. But I'm excited to start. Like, well, I'm out on chapter 8 of the second one. So
good. I'm glad you have
that
a project. That's my biggest takeaway is make sure you have a project that you're excited about waiting for you, because there will be this kind of postpartum letdown of like, I did it. Now what? Life's meaningless. It's weird because it's so stressful. Yeah, and lots of emotions. You'll cry at least once. I did.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the authors that don't cry through the launch process.
Oh, there's been a lot. There's been a lot of tears. A lot of tears throughout this. But a lot of exciting stuff's going on too, because I actually contacted like my cover designer to start work on the second cover and
That's
all that.
good.
So yeah, it'll be good, but it's just like it's crazy. I'll
Hmm.
probably be sitting here next Tuesday, like, is it really out? I don't believe it. Like, no, I don't think it's really out.
It'll just be prepared for it to just feel weird, and it's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because everyone's like, "Aren't you excited?" I'm like, "I think I'm too stressed to be excited." And then when I'm done being stressed, I'm just gonna sleep.
yeah.
You
That's
know?
like this just vicious circle of it all.
Yeah. And I think going forward, instead of saving all of my excitement and joy and celebration for release day, I just decided I'm going to celebrate every milestone. That's a lot of pressure on one
Yeah,
book, you know. So just celebrate every milestone. So
that's what I've been trying to do too. Like when I see people saying like, "Oh, I just hired my editor," I'm like, "That's amazing to finally to be at that step. 'Cause that's a huge step to get
mhm.
your editor. And it's a huge step to
Huge.
go through the editing. It's
Yeah,
like it's such a huge process every step
me
of the
too.
way. And like you said, if you wait until the end, like you're going worn out, and then you need to
Hmm.
enjoy the process. And
Hmm.
I have to admit, like at first, there were some points I wasn't doing that, and some things definitely got to me. But I'm hopefully going to do better with the second one with certain things.
Hmm.
But yeah,
It's a thing. I'll be thinking of you. I'll be thinking of both of us, channeling
yeah.
Tom. Why did we decide to do a live show the day of our release? No, just kidding. It's going to be awesome. We'll be crazy
Yeah,
talking about super couples and books, and it'll be awesome.
yeah, I
So,
can't
well,
wait.
I'm going to let you go. This has been so great. I'm so excited to learn your villains. Um, is there anything else we
Yeah,
need to mention before we go?
I think we're good. We went over what's going to happen next week, and that's going to be the last episode of this season at least. You never
Yeah,
know
you
what
never
could
know.
happen. You never know. Maybe
You
that
never
Smallville
know.
the Funko Pop episode.
We need to have a Funko Pop episode for sure.
Oh
Um,
gosh. But no, I think we're good.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, this has been What's Your Superpower, the villains episode. Go and check AMC Writer's profile out right now. You can get the prologue, first and second chapter of her upcoming novel, The Guardian's Daughter, which will be releasing next Tuesday. And if you go over to my profile right now, you can sign up for my newsletter, and you will get a free ebook called Shadowglass Time Magic coming out next Monday.
Do it.
Do it.
Do
Awesome.
it.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.